Shifters, entrepreneurs on the move, with your host, Amanda Barr, bringing you power-packed 15-minute conversations with entrepreneurs who share their stories of shifting in life and business to keep on the move.
I am so excited for our show today. I've got a dear friend and definitely an entrepreneur that's been on the move ever since I've known him and before. I've got Erik Brown, realtor with Compass in Beverly Hills, helping people buy, sell, and invest in the American dream. Welcome to the show, Erik.
Hey, glad to be here, Amanda.
Yeah, and I know that, we've known you for a while, but for the listeners out there, take us through a little bit of your backstory. I'd love to hear where you started and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, thanks. So my start in real estate was flipping houses, quote unquote. I would buy, fix, and sell properties with a couple of buddies that I went to college with. And the first property that we had flipped, we made $11,000 and thought we were so rich. And so we looked at how much we made per hour, and it ended up being under $2 per hour because we had no idea what we were doing. So we slowly improved upon that and ended up doing a give or take around 100 properties. And that just dovetailed into various facets of real estate, owning property management, some properties, starting a title insurance company, and then dovetailing into building real estate teams where I would help people buy and sell property.
Wow. Now, you started not here in Los Angeles. Maybe share where you started at and how you got to here, because it all kind of ties in, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, thanks. So originally I'm from the Midwest, from Minnesota. And so that's where I had built my book of business, and then had been introduced to California and looked at that as a warmer weather, higher price point in market, and a new challenge. And based on where I was at in my life, I looked at it as exactly that, a new frontier to be able to attempt to tackle. And that was several years ago that I made the move to build a team in the Los Angeles market.
Awesome. And I know that you also are an author. Maybe tell us a little bit about that journey of what inspired you to go down that path and write a story and what it's about.
Yeah, it's interesting in positions like yours and Adam's and mine and insurance and mortgage brokers and accountants. People buy us. So they're not buying groceries or a T-shirt, like we're the product. And so how do we make that product more attractive? And so I'm constantly looking at ways at how to add more value back in my client's life. And so having done all of those different things that I mentioned earlier, created a diverse background compared to the typical real estate agent. And I thought that there would be some nuggets worth sharing. And instead of doing that individualistically, I thought that there might be better platforms to be able to share that on a much broader spectrum. And so that's where the initial idea of writing a book came into play. Someone had told me that there is nothing better than being able to get someone's 10,000 hours of knowledge and wisdom and experience wrapped up in a, $5, $10, $20 book. And so I really kind of fell in love with that concept because I've been able to take advantage and learn so much from other people by what they have written and what they have shared. So I went through that same process, and it's rarer to find a real estate professional that is also a published author, and so added some credence to my business as well.
Yeah, and the name of the book is?
1 in a Million. And so it's based on the premise of there's over 1 million real estate agents in the country. How do you select the right one? And how would you do that amongst really any profession? And it's a guideline for how to pick someone that's going to help you with probably one of the largest transactions that you will ever go through in your life.
Right. You're bringing people home. You're taking them to work. You're taking them to play. And I know it's a great book, and it's a great way to kind of really dive into that. You are choosing a person when you go with a real estate agent or those in a relationship-based business. Now, in that time, I know that you're already picking up and you're sharing some of the shifts and things and why you chose. So I'd love to kind of dive into your world of shifts. What were some of the things that happened and that kind of you thought were going to go one way or might have gone another? What has come up for you over the journey in your experience?
Sure. And do you mean within my business or within the market in general?
Just with whatever comes to mind.
Sure. So the market is constantly going through shifts. So there's trends, there's seasonality, there's large global events that can happen that can kind of change the way that business happens. And so we ebb and flow when any of those things happen. Then within your individual business, there's a whole nother subset of growth and plateaus. And so that one coming into a brand new market, and it could be coming into Los Angeles, going into New York, or it could be going to Oklahoma or Tennessee. Either way, you're building a business and a book of business and in reality, relationships from scratch. Mm-hmm. And so as a business person, you think, how do I, again, add value back in more people's lives? How do I become top of mind and synonymous with being the professional that they would want to go to if they had questions or needs? And so that journey seems to be constantly evolving. It is a living, breathing thing. So each year I try and add a couple of large items that will help my clientele. So as an example, one year was a book. Another year was a personalized password protected website. Another was a networking business group that would add a series of different vendors back into my business, with me having done all of the pre-vetting and so on and so forth. I would add each of these pieces, and it's the idea. I'm a believer, Amanda, that cliches are there for a reason. Sure, they can be funny. They can absolutely be funny sayings, but they're there because they have some meaning behind them. And so the idea of a rolling stone gathers no moss. If you keep pushing and pushing, inevitably this snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it's really hard to push out of the way. And so that's what I have found has happened in my business, because I keep adding tools and I keep adding value, that inevitably the business just continues to grow because there's so many things that I have compared to someone who maybe doesn't or hasn't created those tools.
I love it. I know you are definitely, you know, when I think of those in the real estate space, you've taken what you had and you've connected and you've touched people. You even got this really special monthly mail out that goes, and we've gotten some really cool things along the way. What really, I think one thing that because you're always thinking about ways to reach out and touch, like, you know, when you're in that, you know, room and you're thinking on the whiteboard going, what next? What's that process like for you? Like, because you're so creative, how do you go through that?
Yeah, I usually stem that off of an outline first. And so there was a concept that was introduced years and years ago by one of the founders of one of the large real estate brokerages here in the U.S. That created a concept called 33 touch. And it was this idea of how many touch points should you get to your chosen audience in a given year. And so the idea of 33 is it segues in essence about 2.5 times a month. But nice. I find now that there are, in general, 5 or 6 forms of media that are used most consistently or effectively. Physical visit, phone call, direct mail, email, text message, social media. And so those ways are the ways that we communicate. And so I'm going to use all of those tools to try and get my give or take 33 touches over the course of a year. And then as I look at those touches, to get back to your original question, instead of just making a phone call or sending a text message, I try and think of a way of, how do I become Disney World? How do I make that touch point memorable, experiential? And so I will make a tweaks to those communication methods annually, always trying to improve upon it. So someone like your and my connection, where it does become memorable.
Yes, I know there's so much about that experiential. I know we've been blessed to host events with you and be a part of that journey. And, you know, for us, it's experiential and fun and memorable. And I know that our guests have also left these events and left these experiences feeling the same and sharing what happened and how it was a special night. You know, I think that, like, in terms of somebody, if they were new coming into space and entrepreneurs, the listeners will be very, from businesses, we've got businesses listening to those in real estate, to those across the board. What would be like some nuggets that you would share? I mean, the 33 touches, first of all, is a phenomenal nugget. I hope those of you listening are taking notes. But if you were to give like somebody that's maybe new or even in the business that just to keep them moving, I think you are incredible at moving. You just kept moving. How and what should somebody be doing to keep moving?
So in the entrepreneurial world, particularly in our space, where again it is a relationship-based business, where people inevitably are choosing and purchasing us, the key is really still to maintain relationships. So one thing that I found that was a challenge for me in the beginning is I wanted to keep going wider. I wanted to keep expanding the amount of people that I would communicate with, which is great, but it's hard to really develop great relationships if you're not adding any depth to that. So I had to learn over the course of years that it was much more effective from a business standpoint as well as personal connection to be able to do deeper dives more meaningfully with your business partners, your potential referral partners, as well as your prospective clients. And so finding ways to do deeper dives with a smaller group was more valuable than doing wide dives to a bigger group.
Love it. I mean, I agree 100%. And I know there is that push of like, oh, just more. But I think that there is something special about that depth. And you've got a pretty wide market, and I know you probably, are being able to touch tons, thousands, if not millions of people with your content and what you're doing, but also having that special touch with those that are near and dear. A great advice. Now, obviously, I want to be able to have people reach out to you because you are out there helping people buy, sell, and invest in the American dream. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you, Erik?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So I'm all over the place. Probably the easiest one is going to be online, which is just my name, erikrBrown.com. That is Erik with a K, R as in my middle initial, and then Brown, just like the color.com. I'm also all over social media, the Erik Brown.
Got it. Well, we are wishing you all the best, and may you just keep bringing more people to their dream, their American dream, and keep moving. And we can't wait to be a part of more experiential events and things that you're doing ourselves.
Me as well, Amanda. Thanks so much.
All right. And for all those out there, keep on the move.
We hope you enjoyed the episode today. We appreciate each one of you for listening and hope you left inspired and motivated to keep on the move. If you think this episode might help or inspire someone else, please share. Don't forget to subscribe and keep in the loop to hear more incredible stories of entrepreneurs like yourself on the move. Thank you for our supporters, RTB Capital Group, Financial Powerhouse, Callcast, and Power Podcasting. Now, get out there and keep on the move.